Okay, picture this for a second. Every single building, every bridge, all our critical infrastructure. It's not just concrete and steel anymore. Imagine it as this vast, living digital blueprint, all interconnected.
Hmm.
We're talking smart cities that almost breathe, intricate BIM models, real-time data streams that are literally influencing physical things.
Yeah, changing how things operate on the ground.
Exactly. Now, this whole digitizing of the built environment, it offers incredible efficiency, innovation, no doubt about it. But well, it also opens up completely new frontiers for risk.
That's the flip side, definitely.
So today we're taking a deep dive into ISO 19650-5.2020. Now, this isn't just, another standard number to remember. It's a really critical international framework. It provides a security-minded approach to information management for this incredibly complex digital landscape.
And it's important to stress it's not just about protecting your usual office IT systems, is it?
Not at all. It's much bigger. It's about safeguarding the very fabric of our built world,
Hmm.
the vital information that defines it, operates it, and crucially keeps it safe.
Right, the digital twin and the physical asset becoming intertwined.
Precisely. So our mission for you today is really to unpack this essential standard. We want to reveal the maybe surprising depth of security considerations that frankly often get overlooked, and hopefully arm you with the core knowledge to really understand what being security-minded actually means in a world that's built on elaborative digital information.
Yeah, it's a term you hear, but what does it mean in practice?
Exactly. We'll guide you through the crucial steps, identifying, assessing, mitigating risks. We want to show you why this is just so critical for anyone involved in managing assets or projects today. Think of this as your shortcut to being properly well-informed, hopefully with a few of those aha moments that stick with you.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. The built environment, it's going through this massive transformation right now, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's rapid.
We're seeing this explosion in the use of digital tech, particularly building information modeling. BIM, you hear about it everywhere,
Mhm.
across every single stage, from the first design sketch all the way through construction, the ongoing operation, even decommissioning at the end. And this is having a truly profound effect, really, on everyone involved.
It absolutely is. And this digital shift, it's not just about, fancy new software.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally changing how we work.
How so?
Well, it's driving much greater collaboration across different disciplines, different sectors. It's fostering more transparent, open ways of working, which, well, by its very nature, means more sharing and use of digital information.
Right. More data flowing between more parties.
Exactly. And a really critical development here is the rise of these sophisticated cyber-physical systems.
Okay, break that down a bit. Cyber physical.
So these are systems using sensors and software, that's the cyber part, to actually control or influence physical components in real time. Imagine like a smart grid adjusting power distribution based on live demand data coming in.
Or maybe a transport network dynamically rerouting traffic based on sensors.
Precisely. Now, while that's incredibly beneficial for sectors like utilities, infrastructure, healthcare,
Yeah.
you name it, this interconnectedness, it's a classic double-edged sword,
Immense benefits, you said, but
but also a whole new realm of vulnerabilities, things we didn't really have to worry about before in the same way.
so, okay, we're talking about security challenges that stretch way beyond the traditional walls of just one company.
Precisely. You might be familiar with general information security standards, maybe like ISO IEC 27001.
Yeah.
That focuses mostly on security within a single organization.
Right, your internal stuff.
Yeah. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, ISO 19655, it's specifically designed for security across multiple independent organizations that are working together, collaboratively sharing information.
Which is basically how all major projects work now, right?
Pretty much standard practice for large-scale projects and asset management today. And what's quite smart about this standard, I think, is that it encourages an appropriate and proportionate nature of the approach,
Meaning?
meaning it's scalable.
Yeah.
It doesn't just throw up these huge, insurmountable barriers for, say, small and medium-sized enterprises, the SMEs.
Ah, so they can still participate without needing, like, Fort Knox levels of security for everything.
Exactly. It needs to be practical for everyone involved, otherwise it just won't get adopted properly,
Yeah.
which is vital.
So, given this whole evolving landscape, this interconnectedness, why does adopting this kind of security-minded approach truly matter? For someone listening, working in the built environment today, what's really at stake?
Well, the stakes are incredibly high,
Yeah.
really. Implement the measures in this standard. It helps reduce the risk of loss, misuse, or modification of sensitive information.
Yep.
That's the core.
And without it.
Without it, you could face incidents that impact safety, security, resilience of the actual physical assets, products, the built environment itself, or even the essential services provided through them.
Can you give an example?
Sure, think about a major bridge where its digital twin, its detailed digital model gets compromised. Maybe false sensor readings are fed in, leading to potentially structural failures.
Wow, okay.
Or imagine a new hospital where, I don't know, patient data is leaked because of a design flaw in its smart building systems, systems that were meant to improve things.
That's chilling.
And beyond just safety, it protects against the loss of commercial information, sensitive personal data, intellectual property, the financial hit, the legal battles, the reputational damage from breaches like that can be catastrophic. It can derail entire projects, damage organizations badly.
Right. So here's where it gets really interesting for me. What does security-minded actually mean in the context of this standard? It sounds like more than just, being generally careful with files.
Oh, absolutely. It's far more active than that. The standard defines it as understanding and routinely applying appropriate and proportionate security measures in any business situation so as to deter and/or disrupt hostile, malicious, fraudulent, and criminal behaviors or activities.
Okay, deter and disrupt. That sounds quite proactive.
It is. It's a very active, deliberate mindset. It's about putting things in place for prevention and disruption, not just waiting for something bad to happen and then cleaning up afterwards.
That raises a critical question then. What exactly counts as sensitive information here? Because it feels like it goes way beyond just, say, financial data or passwords.
It really does. Sensitive information is defined quite broadly. It's any data where its loss, misuse, modification, or unauthorized access could potentially adversely affect the privacy, security, or safety of individual.
Okay, people first?
Right. Or compromise intellectual property or trade secrets of an organization.
Yeah.
Or cause commercial or economic harm, maybe to an organization or even a whole country. Or even jeopardize national security, internal and foreign affairs.
That's a huge scope.
It is. And it explicitly includes things like detailed schematics of, say, a new power plant, structural integrity reports for a public building, personal data of people using a facility, even the nitty-gritty contractual terms you have with your subcontractors, all potentially sensitive.
Okay. Now let's pivot slightly to sensitive assets. We mentioned military bases earlier, but you said it's broader. What about something like, I don't know, a major concert venue? Or a new pharmaceutical plant, maybe a city's public transport hub. How does the standard help us think about their vulnerabilities in a new way?
That's a great range of examples. An asset or a product or a service is considered sensitive if it forms part of the critical national infrastructure, the utilities transport networks.
The obvious.
The obvious ones. Or if it fulfills a defense, law enforcement, or national security function.
Hmm.
But crucially, it extends way beyond that. It includes commercial sites involved in creating, trading, or storing significant volumes of valuable materials. Think currency, pharmaceuticals, hazardous chemicals, petrochemicals, gases.
So high value or high risk commercial sites too.
Yeah. Exactly. It also includes landmarks, nationally significant sites, crowded public places, or any venue that's planned to host security-sensitive events, like a major international summit.
Right.
But here's the key principle, really. An asset is sensitive if there's a risk that compromising it or information about it could significantly impact its integrity, its safety, security, resilience, or just its basic ability to function as intended.
So back to your pharma plant example.
Right. Imagine the digital control systems for that pharmaceutical facility being hijacked, maybe altering formulas or releasing dangerous substances. That's a direct threat to public safety originating from a digital compromise.
Okay, I see. It connects the digital vulnerability directly to a potential physical harm or major disruption.
Precisely.
No.
And when we talk about who these threats might come from, the standard also helps broaden our understanding beyond what many might initially think of.
You mean it's not just hackers and hoodies?
Definitely not just hackers and hoodies, though they're in there too. It explicitly expands our view of threats. Yes, terrorism is still a concern, obviously, but the standard recognizes a much wider spectrum of adversaries. We're talking about potentially hostile actions by state-sponsored actors, commercial espionage by competitors trying to steal secrets, organized crime groups, activist groups with specific agendas, lone actors, sophisticated hackers, and even, importantly, malicious insiders. people within the organization.
Malicious insiders. Yeah, that's always a tough one.
It is. So it's a really comprehensive acknowledgement that the digital world has created this more diverse, more persistent threat landscape for the built environment.
Okay, so we've established the need, we've defined what's sensitive, both information and assets, and who might be targeting them. What does this all mean for actually doing something, taking action?
Right. The first crucial step, then, is determining if this full-on security-minded approach is even necessary for your specific project or initiative. You don't apply the maximum security to absolutely everything.
Proportionality again.
Exactly. Proportionality. It starts with a thorough sensitivity assessment process. Top management first needs to get a handle on the broad range of security risks that could pop up simply because there's more information available now, more system integration in modern projects.
So understanding the new playing field.
Yes.
Okay.
Then you identify your own organizational sensitivities. What information relating to your assets, your operations is sensitive, and then critically, you identify third-party sensitivities.
Third party, what does that mean exactly?
That means information about other organizations' assets or operations that isn't public knowledge, but that you might get access to during the project. Maybe a partner shares sensitive details about their infrastructure that connects to yours.
Ah, okay. And that part often gets missed.
It's very easy to overlook, but it's absolutely vital in a collaborative environment where information is flowing between different entities. You have a responsibility to protect their sensitive data, too.
And I imagine this isn't a one-time assessment you do at the start and then just file away. Things change, right? Projects evolve, the world changes.
Absolutely not. That's a key point. You need a robust mechanism for periodic reviews and also event-driven reviews.
Event-driven, like what?
Well, sensitivities aren't static. They can change because of political shifts, economic pressures, new social factors, major technological advancements, new laws or regulations, environmental changes, or even just significant modifications to the asset itself during its life cycle. Any of those could trigger a reassessment.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Keep it live.
Keep it live. All these inputs then feed into what the standard calls a security triage process. Think of it like a clear decision tree, a flow chart almost.
Right.
It asks, is your initiative or asset sensitive? Yes or no? Will you be accessing sensitive third-party information? Yes or no? The answers to those questions dictate whether a comprehensive, full-scale security-minded approach is needed, what the standard refers to as security triage levels, ST1, ST2, or ST3.
And if the answer is no to both? If the answer is no to both, then perhaps a more basic approach, ST4, focusing just on standard commercial confidentiality and personal data protection, might be sufficient. These levels essentially scale the intensity and breadth of the security measures required.
So it guides you to the right level of effort.
Precisely. And if that triage process indicates a higher level is required, then top management shall develop and implement an appropriate and proportionate security-minded approach. It becomes a mandatory requirement based on the assessment.
Okay, so we've navigated that crucial first stage, figuring out what's sensitive and if a deep security approach is even needed for this particular thing. But, knowing isn't doing right. How do we then translate all that assessment work into a concrete strategy, a plan of action?
That's the next logical step, and is where the security strategy comes in. Now, this shouldn't be just some static document gathering dust on a shelf. It needs to be a dynamic blueprint for managing security risks.
So what goes into it?
Well, it naturally incorporates the outcome of your triage, which level you landed on. It outlines the governance arrangements, who's responsible for what. Crucially, it includes a detailed assessment of the specific security risks you identified for this project or asset.
Getting into the weeds of the threats.
Exactly. And alongside that, identifying potential mitigation measures. What are we actually going to do about these risks? What controls will we put in place?
Okay, and what about risks you can't fully eliminate?
Good point. The strategy also needs to summarize the tolerated security risks and any residual tolerated security risks after mitigations are applied. This is about acknowledging what level of risk the organization, or crucially the collaborating organizations, are willing to accept.
That sounds like it could be a tricky conversation, getting different organizations to agree on acceptable risk levels.
It absolutely can be. What one organization sees as an acceptable risk, another might find completely unacceptable, especially if they have different regulatory burdens or reputational concerns. Getting buy-in on tolerated risks across multiple, sometimes competing organizations, that's often a surprisingly tough negotiation in practice. It reflects far more than just technical decisions. It gets into business strategy and risk appetite.
Interesting. So, when you're assessing those security risks for the strategy, beyond just identifying the obvious threats, what are some of the less apparent but maybe equally crucial elements the standard tells us we must consider?
Right. It's not just about listing threats like hackers or malware. You absolutely have to dig deeper. You need to consider the potential vulnerabilities, the specific weaknesses in your systems, your processes, your physical security that could be exploited.
The holes in the armor.
Exactly. Then you need to analyze the nature of the harm that could realistically be caused if a vulnerability is exploited. Is it loss of life? Is it major economic disruption? Is it long-term reputational damage? Is it theft of critical IP? Understanding the potential impact is key.
And then likelihood, I assume.
And then, yes, the likelihood of that specific threat, exploiting that specific vulnerability, actually happening. Combining impact and likelihood gives you your risk level. But what really drives home the importance of getting this assessment right, I think, is the standard's explicit recognition. It states that once information has been published, it is virtually impossible to delete, destroy, remove, or secure all copies of it.
Yeah, the digital genie is out of the bottle.
Pretty much. That permanence of digital information means that prevention, stopping it getting out or being misused in the first place, is exponentially more critical and usually more effective than trying to recover or clean up afterwards.
Okay, so you've assessed the risks. Now you're developing those mitigation measures you mentioned. What areas do those cover?
They have to be holistic. You must consider all facets: personnel security training, vetting, access controls, physical security, securing sites, equipment, technical controls, firewalls, encryption, intrusion detection, and also the requirements around the actual management of information.
Yeah.
How it's handled, stored, shared, destroyed.
This layered approach.
Definitely. And it's iterative. You assess, you mitigate, you reassess the remaining risk. You keep doing this until your individual organization's risk appetite, or, again, crucially for collaborative projects, the collective organization's agreed risk appetite is not exceeded.
And I guess the strategy document itself needs protecting.
Absolutely. That's another critical point the standard makes. The security strategy itself contains highly sensitive information about your vulnerabilities and defenses. Access to it shall be managed on a strict need-to-know basis. You don't want to hand potential adversaries a roadmap to compromising you.
Right, that makes perfect sense. So a robust strategy is vital, setting the direction. But how do we then move from that, high-level paper strategy to practical application, day-to-day actions? How do we ensure these ideas are actually implemented on the ground?
That's where the security management plan comes in. If the strategy is the what and why, the management plan is the how.
Okay, the operational detail.
Exactly. This plan details the specific policies and processes that are needed to actually implement your strategy across the board. It gets down to the nitty-gritty.
Like what sort of details?
Well, it covers critical security information requirements.
Yeah.
How sensitive data should be created, how it should be distributed, used, stored securely, eventually disposed of, and verifiably destroyed.
Yeah.
Every stage of its life.
The full life cycle.
The full life cycle also very clearly dictates the requirements for providing information to third parties, which, as we said, is a major potential point of vulnerability. There need to be clear rules and procedures for that. And it outlines what it calls logistical security for sensitive assets.
Logistical security. What does that involve?
It can be quite practical things. For instance, a key detail mentioned is considering the timing of the installation of any sensitive security-related assets or systems. Why? To limit who has physical access during those potentially vulnerable installation and configuration periods, think about installing critical control systems before the main site security is fully operational. That's a risk.
Ah, okay. Thinking about the practicalities of deployment. This plan sounds incredibly comprehensive then, really trying to cover all the bases. The standard breaks it down into 4 major areas of control, doesn't it? Maybe we can touch on those. Starting with personnel aspects, what does that really entail day to day?
Right. Personnel is often cited as, the weakest link in security, so it's a huge focus. This means things like clearly identifying high-risk functions or roles within the project.
People with privileged access?
Exactly. Setting rigorous security screening and vetting requirements for staff who will be in those roles, or handling sensitive information, and ensuring everyone gets robust, regular security awareness training. It's not just a one-off induction thing. It's about constantly reinforcing a security-first culture.
So it's behavior, not just rules.
Absolutely. Because even the best technical controls in the world can be completely undermined by simple human error, or worse, by malicious intent from an insider.
Okay, that's people. Then beyond the people, there are the physical aspects of security. This must be a massive consideration for actual buildings and infrastructure projects.
Indeed. It's fundamental. It covers the physical security measures needed at locations where sensitive information is actually held or processed, maybe specific secure rooms or data centers within a building. It also covers security for the built asset itself, perimeter security, access control to sensitive areas.
Makes sense.
And interestingly, it even mentions considering security for neighboring built assets not otherwise generally visible and are accessible.
Neighboring assets, why?
Yeah. Well, think about sightlines. Could someone overlook a sensitive area from an adjacent building? Does a neighboring, less secure facility provide an easy vector to access yours? It's about considering the immediate physical environment, too. Even the views from nearby buildings can be a security risk if not managed.
Wow, okay. That's quite detailed thinking.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we have the technological aspects. Given how digitized everything is becoming, this has got to be right at the forefront.
Absolutely central. This involves robust cybersecurity measures for all the systems involved: networks, servers, endpoints, cloud services, IoT devices, everything. It mandates regular vulnerability assessments and penetration testing to proactively find weaknesses.
Testing your own defenses.
Exactly. And the standard explicitly states that systems should be secure by default. What that means is security should be baked in from the very start of the design and procurement process, not bolted on as an afterthought when it's often too late or too expensive.
Security by design.
Precisely. It also specifically calls out considering the security architecture of the Internet of Things, IoT devices, and other distributed technologies, which are increasingly common in smart buildings and infrastructure and often have unique security challenges.
And what are the key goals for these systems?
The standard highlights key properties: confidentiality, keeping secrets secret; availability, ensuring systems are up and running when needed; safety, ensuring they don't cause physical harm; resilience, ability to withstand and recover from attacks or failures; possession, controlling the data; authenticity, verifying identities; utility, fitness for purpose; and integrity, ensuring data and systems aren't improperly modified. It's a comprehensive view of what secure means technologically.
Okay, that's a lot on the tech side. And finally, the fourth area. The information aspects themselves. How is the actual sensitive data managed throughout its life cycle?
Right, this drills down into the data itself. It details how to manage sensitive data that might be collected during, say, site inspections or drone surveys, how to control its secure storage, whether physical or digital, and manage access permissions tightly.
Access control again.
Access control is fundamental, and ensuring protection against loss or corruption throughout the entire information lifecycle, right from its initial capture or acquisition through its active maintenance and usage to eventual archival, potential publication if appropriate and secured, and finally, secure purging or destruction when it's no longer needed.
Need-to-know basis.
Absolutely. A fundamental principle woven throughout is that access to sensitive information is managed on a need-to-know basis. Basically, if you don't absolutely need access to a particular piece of sensitive information to do your specific job or task, you don't get access to it. It minimizes the potential exposure if one account is compromised.
Right, minimize the blast radius, so to speak. And crucially, you mentioned earlier, no matter how good your plan is, incidents will happen sometimes. So the overall strategy must include a plan for dealing with breaches and incidents, correct?
Absolutely critical. You have to plan for failure, essentially. The security management plan must include a detailed security breach and incident management plan. What steps do you take when something goes wrong?
And what's particularly insightful about how the standard addresses this?
What I find particularly insightful and maybe reflects a forensic mindset is the explicit instruction to collect all relevant evidence, that means both physical evidence, if applicable, and digital evidence before you take any recovery actions.
Before fixing the problem, why?
Because recovery actions, like restoring from backups or rebooting systems, can often destroy or overwrite the very evidence you need to understand how the breach happened, who did it, and what exactly was compromised.
Preserving the crime scene, digitally speaking.
Exactly. Preserving the digital crime scene. Now, there's a big caveat, of course. Unless, this is critical, the immediate need for recovery actions is absolutely critical to life or preventing catastrophic immediate harm. Safety first, always. But otherwise, the principle is evidence first, then recovery. This is vital for thorough investigation, learning lessons, and potentially legal action later.
That's a really key practical detail. Okay, shifting gears slightly. No organization, especially in these big built environment projects, operates in a vacuum, does it? There are countless contractors, subcontractors, consultants, partners. How do we ensure everyone involved, particularly those external parties, is genuinely on board with this security mindset? That sounds like a massive challenge.
It is a massive challenge, no doubt,
Right.
and it requires really careful, proactive management, especially when you're working with what the standard calls appointed parties, basically anyone you formally engage on the project.
So, your supply chain.
Your entire supply chain, exactly. And it starts early. Even before formal contracts are signed, say during the tendering or bidding process, if sensitive information needs to be shared to allow them to bid properly, then information sharing agreements become essential.
Even before they've got the job.
Yes, these aren't just flimsy legal niceties either. They need to be quite specific. They must detail the exact purpose of sharing the information, who the recipients are, what type of information is being shared, what they're allowed to do with it, usage rights, and critically, what their obligations are regarding things like breach notification if something goes wrong on their end, allowing for monitoring or auditing, and even potential sanctions if they fail to protect the data.
So, setting very clear expectations right from the absolute start.
Exactly. Setting clear boundaries and expectations up front is crucial.
So it goes further than just those initial agreements then. It needs to be embedded right into the fabric of how we contract and manage these projects day to day.
Precisely. Measures contained in appointment documentation, meaning the actual contracts, are crucial. This means weaving specific security requirements directly into the legal agreements.
Like what kind of requirements?
Things like stipulating compliance with specific security standards, maybe parts of this standard or others, including an explicit obligation for them to cascade those security requirements down to any sub-appointments they make, ensuring the security obligations flow down the entire supply chain.
So the main contractor is responsible for their sub-security too.
In essence, yes. They need to ensure their subs meet the required standards. The contract should also give the appointing party, you, the right to review security measures and compliance at any level of the project hierarchy. You need the ability to audit and check that they're actually doing what they promised.
Audit rates, okay.
And just as important as securing information during the project is having the contractual right to require and verify the secure disposal or destruction of sensitive information at the end of an appointment or contract.
Making sure they delete everything properly.
Exactly. You want to be sure no sensitive digital copies are lurking around on their systems years after the project is finished. It's about closing that loop securely.
It sounds like a lot of contractual diligence is needed.
It is, but ultimately, a truly successful security-minded approach goes beyond just contracts and clauses. It really means promoting a security-minded culture so that all staff, everyone involved, understand their security responsibilities and behave in a secure manner.
Back to the culture point.
Yes, it's not just about rules and technology. It's about making security considerations second nature for every single person on the team, from top management setting the tone right down to the newest intern handling project documents. This has to be a collective, ongoing effort, not just the IT department's job.
Definitely. Okay, let's shine a light now on a couple of perhaps more subtle but potentially powerful threats that the standard highlights, things that might often be overlooked yet are particularly insidious. First up, hostile reconnaissance. We kind of hear about it in spy thrillers, maybe, but what does it mean in the context of securing a building project or critical infrastructure?
Right. It sounds dramatic, but hostile reconnaissance is described in the standard as a critical precursor to the planned security breach. It's the information gathering phase.
Spying, basically.
Essentially, yes.
Mhm.
It's where an adversary, whether it's a competitor, a criminal group, a state actor, actively looks for information they can exploit later. And crucially, this isn't just about technical hacking to find digital vulnerabilities.
What else does it involve?
It could involve observing physical vulnerabilities, like checking delivery schedules, looking for unsecured access points, seeing where CCTV cameras have blind spots. It could involve probing for system configuration, details what software versions are running, are they patched, or even studying the modus operandi, the routines, the pattern of life of individuals or groups associated with the asset.
Pattern of life, like tracking people's movements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe covertly tracking the shift patterns of security guards to find gaps,
Mhm.
noting which doors are consistently left propped open at certain times, observing the timing and methods of software updates applied to a smart building's control systems. It's all about patiently gathering intelligence to find those exploitable weaknesses, often weeks or even months before any actual attack is launched.
That's quite chilling. It makes security much more than just firewalls.
Much more. It requires situational awareness of the physical and human environment, too.
Okay. Then there's this other really sneaky concept you mentioned, aggregation risks. You said this is where seemingly innocuous, harmless little pieces of information become incredibly dangerous when they're combined. It sounds almost like a digital jigsaw puzzle for criminals or spies.
That's a perfect analogy, actually.
Yeah.
And understanding aggregation risk is often a powerful aha moment for people when they first grasp it. The standard outlines two main types.
Okay.
First, there's aggregation by accumulation. This is where just having a large volume of information, even if each individual piece seems benign on its own, significantly increases the potential impact if that whole data set is compromised.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Think of a massive database containing years' worth of employee access badge swipes for a sensitive facility. Individually, each swipe record is just a timestamp and a door ID. Pretty boring.
Hmm.
But aggregated, that data reveals highly sensitive patterns of movement for critical personnel, maybe showing who has access to restricted labs, when they access them, how long they stay. That aggregated picture is far more valuable to an adversary than any single swipe record.
Right, the sheer volume reveals patterns. What's the second type?
The second type, and arguably even more insidious, is aggregation by association. This is where combining different types of information, none of which might be sensitive on its own, can suddenly reveal sensitive information or information about the configuration of assets that was never intended to be public or connected.
So connecting the dots between different public or semi-public data sets.
Exactly. Imagine combining publicly available public transport schedules with, say, detailed architectural plans of a sensitive government building that perhaps leaked or were obtained elsewhere. Separately, they're just transport times and blueprints.
But together.
But together, an adversary might be able to figure out the exact bus route a key executive takes to work every day, and how the timing of that route aligns perfectly with shift changes as specific, less guarded entry points shown on the blueprints. Suddenly, they have a potential infiltration plan derived from combining non-sensitive sources.
Wow. The whole becomes greater and potentially much more dangerous than the sum of its parts.
Precisely. That's the core of aggregation risk.
Huh.
It forces you to think not just about protecting individual pieces of obviously sensitive data, but about how seemingly unrelated information could be combined by someone with hostile intent.
What an eye-opener that is. We've really covered a lot of ground here today. We've taken this deep dive into ISO 19655, moving all the way from defining what's truly sensitive in our increasingly digital built environment,
Yeah, information, assets, the works.
through establishing robust security strategies, implementing really detailed controls across personnel, physical, tech, and information aspects,
The whole management plan.
all while emphasizing that critical importance of collaboration across the whole project team and supply chain, and staying vigilant against those often unseen, subtle threats like hostile reconnaissance and these aggregation risks.
It's been a thorough exploration, hopefully useful. This deep dive, I hope, has provided you listening with more than just a dry summary of a standard.
Yeah.
We aim to give you a practical framework, a way of thinking, to critically assess and genuinely enhance the security posture of any built environment project or asset you're involved with.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, as we've discussed, this standard, this whole security-minded approach, it's about protecting much more than just data files on a server. It's fundamentally about protecting people, protecting businesses, and protecting critical national interests in this profoundly interconnected world we now live and build in.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Considering how readily available and interconnected digital information is becoming all around us, what seemingly unrelated pieces of data about your own environment, your own projects, your own assets, when potentially combined, could reveal a critical vulnerability that perhaps you haven't yet considered. Perhaps it's time for all of us to put on that security-minded hat, look at the bigger picture, and maybe start connecting some of those dots ourselves before someone else does.